Aspire to a clean career, leaving no shame for descendants. Hello everyone. Welcome to Encountering Chinese, Case Stories, Cases Judged by Bao Gong. Today, I'm going to bring you a story called Borrowing Clothes. In the county of Xiangfu, under the jurisdiction of Kaifeng Prefecture, there lived a scholar named Shen Liangma. He had a son named Shenyu. Nearby, in Zhao family village, resided a successful scholar, Zhao Shijun, who was married to Tian. The couple, both nearing 50, had no sons and only one daughter, Jiao. Jiao was a natural beauty, as lovely as a celestial being, and her beauty was renowned far and wide. Believing Shenyu to be a man of good character, Zhao Shijun and his wife arranged a marriage between him and Jiao. However, not long after, the Shen family was struck by a devastating flood, which destroyed nearly all their possessions, leaving them impoverished. Upon seeing the Shen family's downfall, Zhao Shijun began to consider breaking off the engagement. But Jiao, a virtuous and principled young woman, told her mother, Tian, "Father has already promised me to Shenyu. I cannot marry another." Tian, anxious about her daughter's age and eager to see her wed soon, hesitated. The Shen family's poverty was undeniable, and they could not afford a respectable bridal gift. One day, while Zhao Shijun was away in the southern village on business, Tian sent a servant to the Shen household, summoning Shenyu to the Zhao residence. She intended to give him some silver to cover the bridal gift and enable the marriage to proceed. When Shenyu heard the news, he was overjoyed. Yet, realizing his current attire was shabby and unsuitable, he decided to visit his aunt to borrow some proper clothes. When Shenyu arrived at his aunt's house, she greeted him warmly and asked with a smile, "What brings you here today? Is something the matter?" Shenyu explained, "My future mother-in-law knows about our family's financial struggles and has kindly sent for me to offer some silver as a bridal gift. This will allow me to marry Jiao. But I don't have decent clothes to wear, so I've come to borrow a set from my cousin. I'll return them tomorrow morning." His aunt was delighted for him and, after inviting him to stay for lunch, immediately asked her son, Wang Bei, to fetch some clothes for his cousin. However, Wang Bei, who was not a man of good character, harbored his own designs upon Jiao's beauty. He devised a deceitful plan. Pretending to be helpful, he said to Shenyu, "Cousin, since you're here, why not stay the night? It's already late, and there's no rush. Tomorrow, I'll go with you to the Zhao household after I finish visiting a friend." Having said this, Wang Bei left Shenyu behind at the house, dressed himself in his finest attire, and, posing as Shenyu, made his way to the Zhao residence. Wang Bei arrived at the Zhao residence and brazenly claimed to be Shenyu. Since Tian had never met Shenyu, she believed him and even brought her daughter Jiao out to meet the guest. However, she quickly noticed that this Shenyu behaved crudely and lacked the refinement of a scholar. Suspicious, she asked, "My son-in-law, aren't you supposed to be a scholar? Why are your manners so unpolished?" Wang Bei grinned and replied cheekily. There's a saying, poverty shortens ambition. Since my family's downfall, I've been living in a humble thatched cottage, dressed in rags. Coming to your esteemed home today, I felt nervous, so I might have acted a bit awkwardly in an attempt to seem more at ease. Tian, rather than reprimanding him, warmly invited him to stay the night. Believing him to truly be Xinyu, both Tian and Ajiao let down their guard, giving Wang Bei the chance to grow close to Ajiao that night. In the end, the two ended up sharing the same bed. The next morning, Tian handed over more than 80 taels of silver, along with gold and silver jewelry and other valuables worth over 100 taels, to Wang Bei. Little did she know, this man was an impostor. Unaware of his deceit, she allowed him to leave with the treasures unchallenged. When Wang Bei returned home, he hid the stolen riches and acted as though nothing had happened. He casually told Xinyu, "Yesterday, I visited a friend, and he insisted I stay overnight, which is why I returned so late." Xinyu brought up the matter of borrowing clothes again, but Wang Bei kept making excuses, delaying Xinyu for another day. Only on the third day, when Xinyu grew impatient, did Wang Bei finally give him the clothes. Dressed in his cousin's borrowed attire, Xinyu hurried to the Zhao residence. Upon arriving, he asked the gatekeeper to announce him. When Tian heard the news, she was startled and rushed out to meet him. As soon as she saw him, she asked, "Are you really my son-in-law? Tell me about your family, so I can know for sure." Xinyu proceeded to recount his family background and life experiences in detail. His words were measured, and his demeanor was composed, exuding the grace of someone from a scholarly household. Tian immediately realized that this was the real Xinyu, while the previous man had been a fraud. Filled with anger and regret, she went inside and said to her daughter Ajiao, "You should go out and meet him." Ajiao refused to come out, hiding behind a curtain and complaining. "I told you to come earlier, so why are you only arriving now?" Not wanting to expose his cousin's scheming, Xinyu explained gently. "I was feeling unwell that day and had to delay my trip by a few days. I apologize for being late and humbly ask for your forgiveness, my lady." With tears in her voice, Ajiao said, "If you had come 3 days earlier, I would already be your wife, and the dowry would have been settled. But now you're too late, perhaps this is fate." Xinyu responded firmly. "Since Madame Zhao invited me here with such generosity and even offered silver, how could I refuse? The money itself doesn't matter to me. Since our marriage agreement was made, no matter how long I have to wait, you are my wife. Even if your father is powerful, he cannot break his promise and marry you off to someone else." With that, he stood up to leave. Ajiao quickly stopped him and said, "Don't go. Maybe we are simply not destined to be together. You will surely find a better wife someday. Here, take this pair of gold hairpins and these 2 gold ornaments. You can sell them to fund your studies. Perhaps in our next lives, we can be together." Xinyu shook his head and replied, "Miss Zhao, why do you say such inauspicious things? Are you giving me these gold pieces to sever our engagement?" No matter how your father treats me, I will not break our engagement. Ajiao sighed softly and said, It's not about breaking off the engagement. You will understand everything tomorrow. Take these things now. If you delay, it might bring trouble upon you. Shenyu was confused and remained seated in the hall, unmoving. Suddenly, a servant rushed in from the inner chamber, shouting urgent news. Ajiao had hanged herself. Shenyu was stunned and ran into the inner chamber, only to find that it was true. Ajiao had already been taken down, while Lady Tian held her daughter's lifeless body and wept bitterly. Shenyu looked at the scene before him, tears streaming down his face as his heart was overwhelmed with grief. Tian urged him to leave immediately, saying, Go quickly. Don't delay any longer. Left with no choice, Shenyu hurried back to his aunt's house, returned the borrowed clothes, and recounted the entire incident to her in detail. Later, Shenyu's aunt learned the truth. Her own son, Wang Bei, had deceived the Zhao family, stolen the silver, and violated Ajiao, which drove her to attempt suicide. Overcome with shock and fury, she passed away a few days later. Wang Bei's wife, Yu Shi, a beautiful and kind-hearted woman who had been married to him for just over a month, discovered his vile actions. She scolded him bitterly, saying, Since you've already deceived them out of their money, you shouldn't have gone so far as to deceive their daughter as well. A scoundrel like you is truly intolerable in the eyes of heaven. I refuse to remain your wife. Write me a letter of divorce so I can return to my family. Wang Bei, indifferent to her anger, sneered and replied, With all the gold and silver I have, do you think I'll have trouble finding another wife? He then quickly wrote a divorce letter and drove Yu Shi out of the house. Let us return to Zhao Shijun. A few days after returning home, he inquired about the reason behind his daughter Ajiao's attempted hanging. Tian, fearful of revealing the truth, hastily fabricated an explanation. Our daughter has always been pampered and prone to losing her temper with the servants. A few days ago, Shenyu came to propose marriage, but his shabby attire embarrassed her. She refused to meet with him and was so ashamed at the thought of marrying a poor scholar that she decided to take her own life. It was all her own doing and has nothing to do with Shenyu. Hearing this, Zhao Shijun flew into a rage and retorted, I told you and our daughter to break off the engagement with the Shen family long ago, but you insisted on going through with it. Now, our daughter has lost her life over this, and you dare to wash your hands of the matter? No, I will make Shenyu pay for her life. With that, he drafted a legal complaint and submitted it to the local authorities. In his petition, he wrote, I hereby file a complaint regarding my daughter's dishonor and subsequent suicide. It is said that the bond between parent and child is sacred, and life and death are of utmost importance. My daughter, Ajiao, was unmarried but had an engagement arranged with the rogue Shenyu. A few days ago, while I was away, Shenyu took advantage of my absence and forced himself upon my daughter. Ajiao, who has always valued her honor, could not endure the humiliation and chose to hang herself. Although Shenyu had an engagement with my daughter, they were not yet married, and by tradition, he should not have come to our home uninvited. much less committed such an abhorrent act. The dead cannot return, but the guilty must face justice. Human life is sacred, and I implore the court to act accordingly. Zhao Shijun, being both wealthy and well-connected, had become blinded by his hatred and was determined to have Shen Yu condemned to death. He offered a hefty bribe to the magistrate, Ye, urging him to expedite the case. This prompted Magistrate Ye, eager to close the case quickly, to heed only the plaintiff's side of the story. Furthermore, Zhao Shijun fabricated incriminating evidence, which led Magistrate Ye to swiftly sentence Shen Yu to death without giving him a chance to defend himself. As the autumn assizes approached, Zhao Shijun went so far as to personally write a letter to Bao Gong, who was nearby on an inspection tour, requesting that he review the case promptly and approve Shen Yu's execution. However, Tian, Zhao Shijun's wife, secretly sent a family servant to appeal to Bao Gong on Shen Yu's behalf. Upon hearing the case, Bao Gong mused. The husband demands the son-in-law's death, yet the wife pleads for his life. There must be more to this story than meets the eye. Determined to uncover the truth, he decided to summon Shen Yu for questioning. Bao Gong asked. According to your account, Zhao's daughter accused you of arriving 3 days late. Why were you delayed for so long? Shen Yu replied. Because of my family's poverty, I had no decent clothes to wear and went to my aunt's home to borrow some. But my cousin, Wang Bei, detained me for 2 days, which caused the delay. After hearing this, Bao Gong began to piece the events together. The next morning, Bao Gong disguised himself as a cloth merchant and set up shop near Wang Bei's house. It so happened that Wang Bei came out looking to buy 2 bolts of cloth. Bao Gong, however, deliberately set an exorbitant price, which infuriated Wang Bei. You rogue of a peddler! Wang Bei bellowed. This is outright extortion. Feigning indignation, Bao Gong retorted. And you? With that shabby look, you don't seem like someone who can afford to buy cloth. While I may run a small business, I'm not one to be trifled with. These bolts of cloth cost me 200 taels of silver. If you can pay 150 taels, I'll sell them to you. Wang Bei sneered. Why would I, someone who isn't a merchant, buy so much cloth? Bao Gong taunted further. I think you're just broke and putting on airs. How shameful. Wang Bei thought to himself. I've still got about 70 or 80 taels of silver at home. If I add the gold and silver jewelry I took from Zhao's family, it's more than enough to make up 150 taels. If I can buy these bolts at that price, I won't lose money. Worst case, I'll sell the cloth later and might even profit. With this in mind, Wang Bei declared. Don't underestimate me. Although I don't have that much cash on hand, I have plenty of gold and silver jewelry. Buying your cloth is a trivial matter for me. Bao Gong, knowing his ploy had worked, smiled and replied, As long as you can pay, I don't care whether it's silver or jewelry. Wang Bei then rummaged through his home, producing 60 taels of silver and roughly estimating the value of the gold and silver jewelry at 90 taels. He handed everything over to Bao Gong and purchased all 20 bolts of cloth. Bao Gong, having secured the jewelry, returned to the courthouse and summoned Zhao Shijun to identify the items. Zhao examined them carefully, visibly surprised. He said, "Some of these pieces do indeed belong to my daughter. How did they come into your possession?" Bao Gong, now certain of his deductions, immediately ordered the arrest of Wang Bei. When Wang Bei was brought to court, Bao Gong questioned him sternly. "Wang Bei, why do you have Zhao's daughter's jewelry, and why did you use it to buy cloth? Confess the truth and spare yourself harsher punishment." Wang Bei looked up and was shocked to see that the cloth merchant was none other than Bao Gong himself. Realizing he had no escape, he fell to his knees and confessed. "On that day, my cousin Shinyu came to my home to borrow clothes. Seizing the opportunity, I impersonated him and went to the Zhao household. Miss Zhao mistook me for Shinyu, and we met privately at night. The jewelry and silver were given to me by her. Now that you have irrefutable evidence, I admit my guilt. Indeed, Miss Zhao's suicide and Shinyu's imprisonment were entirely my doing." Upon hearing the confession, Bao Gong was enraged. He ordered his guards to administer corporal punishment to Wang Bei immediately. The shameless man was flogged to death on the spot. When Zhao Shijun learned the truth, his anger was uncontrollable. Grinding his teeth, he declared, "This villain not only stole our silver but also brought shame to my daughter, driving her to take her own life. Such an affront cannot be forgiven. He even nearly cost my son-in-law his life. I was so close to committing a grave mistake, tarnishing my family's honor and morality. This case must be thoroughly investigated, and his wife should also be punished to satisfy my grievance." Hearing of this, Wang Bei's wife, Yu Shi, came forward voluntarily to the Zhao household. She approached Tian and pleaded, "Madam, I am Yu Shi. I was married to Wang Bei for less than a month when I discovered his greed and unethical deeds, including his actions against your family. Unable to bear living with such a man, I demanded a divorce and returned to my family over a year ago. Since then, I have had no connection to Wang Bei or his crimes. Here is the divorce document he wrote at the time. It proves my innocence. I beg you, madam, to clear my name. I have never taken anything from the Zhao family, nor have I committed any wrongdoing." When Zhao Shijun examined the divorce document, he carefully verified its authenticity. Confirming that Yu Shi had indeed divorced Wang Bei due to his theft, Zhao could not help but sigh. This woman refused to partake in stolen wealth and distanced herself from a wicked man. She upholds both propriety and virtue, qualities rarely seen even among daughters of esteemed families. Tian, filled with sorrow, saw her husband's praise for Yu Shi and said emotionally, "I always regarded my daughter as the apple of my eye, but fate cruelly cut her life short. You are a virtuous young woman. If you would consent to becoming our adopted daughter, it would bring us great comfort. Would you be willing?" Yu Shi, moved by their grief and kindness, knelt and expressed her gratitude, saying, "It is an honor to receive your love and acceptance, treating me without prejudice. To become the adopted daughter of the Zhao family is a blessing I could never have hoped for. Zhao Shijun, seeing this, nodded and said, "Now that you have become our daughter, and since you are without a husband while Shenyu remains unmarried, I feel deeply remorseful for my past wrongs toward him and wish to make amends. Our families already had a marriage agreement. Why not let you two marry, allowing him to remain my son-in-law? Would you be willing?" Tian clapped her hands joyfully, exclaiming, "What a wonderful idea! I had not thought of it. This way, our departed daughter's spirit may also find solace." Knowing Shenyu's character, Yushi was delighted and replied with a smile, "I gladly obey the wishes of my new parents. Please arrange everything as you see fit." A few days later, Zhao Shijun invited Shenyu to the Zhao household, formally arranged for him to join the family as a son-in-law, and celebrated his marriage to Yushi. News of this union spread, and all who heard were overjoyed. Indeed, this was a most remarkable turn of events. Wang Bei, blinded by greed for ill-gotten wealth, ultimately gained nothing. He who sought to possess another man's wife ended up surrendering his own. Heaven's justice may be slow, but it is always certain, a truth proven once again. Alright. Today's case story, Borrowing Clothes, concludes here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Feel free to leave your comments and share with others. See you again in the next issue.